Today I'm cooking food from chard. So the dish that I'm trying today is called Daraba. It's a peanut butter based vegetable stew. Essentially it uses a bunch of different fresh vegetables. In this case, okra, sweet potato, aubergine, tomato, leafy greens. I used Swiss chard, but could use any leafy green like spinach. Then peanut butter, salt and pepper, cayenne pepper, and a bit of vegetable stock. It's pretty simple to put together. I fried off the sweet potato first and then let that simmer in some water to get that going because it's the hardest vegetable. I then sautéed the okra separately because okra is quite slimy if you've ever tried it before. But it's a pretty key vegetable in quite a lot of African countries, and it's really nice if you cook it properly. But saute that and eventually the sliminess will go away, and then after that I add it to the rest of my stew. And then the rest of the vegetables I just prepared in the same way, roughly chopped and then added in depending on how soft they are, basically. Let that simmer off for about 20 minutes or so. Just let that all go together. The Swiss chard was the last thing I added in, the leafy part at least. A lot of cuisine in Chad seems to be based on fresh vegetables and fruit, and sometimes meat as well, and also in stew form. So this seemed like a really good dish to try this out, and it's definitely not something I would do with peanut butter in. The other national dish that Chad has, that came up quite a lot when I was researching, was called Jarret de boeuf, which translates from French to shin of beef. It was a dish that was named by the French when they colonised Chad. It's a pretty simple beef and vegetable stew, like literally beef, vegetables in water-based stew. Which is why I went for this kind of more plant-based Daraba peanut stew, because it sounded a lot more interesting. But yeah, anyway, after the vegetables had cooked down for a while, stirring them in, it was close to the end that I actually added the peanut butter in. By this point it had thickened up a little bit, presumably from the sweet potato and just a bit of evaporation. And as soon as I added the peanut butter in and it kind of melted through, it got really lovely and creamy. But yeah, overall it's just really nice dish to make, really simple. And it's quite a good way of, like, you could definitely repurpose this with other vegetables depending on what's seasonally available, and can make it as spicy or not as spicy as you want, really. After the peanut butter was added, it kind of came together really nicely, kind of looked more like a curry, I suppose, like really thick. I wouldn't say it's the most beautiful dish in the world. I have seen some people make it and it look more pretty, I guess, where it was a bit thinner, so the vegetables kind of stood out more. But I will say this version, whilst it's not the most beautiful food in the world, it was really, really good. It was definitely a lot better than I was expecting, I suppose, from a vegetable stew. But yeah, no, it was really, really tasty. I just had it on its own, but can definitely have this over rice, I think, or some kind of grain. As a dessert, it was, again, kind of fresh fruit type of thing. So I did juice to fruit, which is basically a mango smoothie made of mango and milk.